Well, I won't.
Meh. No, you want to fight? You want to fight? You want to fight? You want to go? That's too funny.
Oh.
Welcome to the edge of nowhere. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this 51st episode, the Season 1 Roundupdate edition of the Monster Lore Tour Paranormal Deep Dives from the Edge of Nowhere podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Carr, here along with my co-host, and the bugs to my Daffy.
Woo! Woo! Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Mr. Matt Ozero, a.k.a. the Moz. How we doing today, Moz?
Hey, he's a supernatural demigod we established in our rabbit lore episode, so I'm going to take that accolade.
Yeah.
It was very nice of you.
I'm going to put it this way. If Looney Tunes was Olympus, Bugs would be Zeus, but Daffy would be present.
I think Bugs would be Hermes.
You think?
Yeah.
Hermes is the fast one,
he's
right?
He's the trickster.
Oh, he's the trickster. Well, Daffy, who's Daffy? He's crazy trickster. Like, he's less in control of his powers.
Maybe Dionysus? I don't know.
He is quite Dionysian. He's always down in wine and food and just running around and he's naked.
I think Elmer Fudd is Apollo and they ignore him entirely and just do their little thing. He's like the Zeppo Marx of the Looney Tunes kind of thing.
Well, nobody wants war.
Yeah.
Come on now.
I wouldn't
ignore
say
those
that.
Silly war gods. Just ignore them till they go away.
Yeah. Well, that's Mars. Apollo is the structure. He's the Apollo is the order Muppet.
Oh, Apollo's
and
the
Dionysus
hunter.
is the chaos Muppet. If you want to bring it into the Muppets, which I'm
misassigning my deities. Let's move along. Do we have any old business to finish up before we end season 1?
Yeah, you do. That voodoo. You looked up the Chris Carter thing.
I do so well, yes.
Yeah. Chris Carter. I came up with a great theory at the end of your side trail.
The Chris Carter thing, that he was actually the real life Tom Gifford.
Correct.
And that, that book and then X-Files was his therapy.
Right. And the book was?
In the book, Tom was only just a little bit different age than Chris Carter in real life. So you might be onto something there, Moz.
Close
if you
enough.
Want to dig deeper.
How many years apart?
It was like 4 or 5.
45? Okay.
I'm not sure exactly how the birthdays align kind of thing.
Okay, 4 or 5 years. I'll take that.
Yeah, it's not too far off.
Yeah. So what was the name of the book and the title again, just for
the
Mojave, check it out.
The Mojave Incident by Ron Felber.
There you go. Cool.
It's a good read if you're into crazy alien abduction stuff that may have actually happened.
Yeah. There you go. So it's in the nonfiction section. Until further notice.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Anywho, if you get a quick chance before we start here, please give a quick tap to those happy fun buttons on whatever platform you're listening on. Like, subscribe, share with some friends maybe as we jump into our first ever season finale.
Yeah, it's exciting. You did get the title wrong, though. I think there's a comma in season 1, finally. Season 1, comma, finally.
It's finale, Moss. Finale.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Old English, maybe.
What do you know?
Yeah, but enough about that. We're here to celebrate our 50 episodes milestone that we hit last week. Thank you very much, Moz. And to wrap up our first season/year of broadcasting this madness out to the world. Where to begin, Moz? Where do we begin this first ending of our beginning?
Actually, I suggest starting at the beginning. If you've been enjoying our podcast or discovered today that you enjoy it, then go back and start at the beginning. We each sort of followed our own arc through season 1, with one thing leading into the next, and all these topics connecting together in so many ways we didn't imagine in the beginning.
Had no idea.
Like most podcasts, we had our share of audio issues in the earlier episodes, but don't worry, I made sure Jeremy was flogged accordingly till quality improved. It's part of the compliance team there.
I kind of enjoyed that part.
There you go. But he figured it out pretty quick, and if you can find it in your heart to forgive us those earlier technical difficulties, you may get a better sense of where this Monster Lore tour started and where it's heading. It will also familiarize you with the lexicon we're building for this stuff, new terms like Sither and Techiex and whatnot. Whatnot was already a word, just for the record.
Yep, okay.
But overall, quite the journey. Funny and informative, and maybe, just maybe, we can contribute to the growing body of knowledge in this ever-expanding field. It also appears we have begun to build what we are calling a paranormal theory of everything, and we didn't expect that either.
Yeah, we've mentioned that a couple times along the way, and on that note, I'd particularly like to apologize for episode 3's audio. In my defense, it was our cursed episode about skin
walkers,
and I'm really glad we were just able to get it done and still be alive.
But we
honestly.
recently resolved we might do this again sometime.
True.
If we do it in Ouroboros fashion, we're going to make it our last episode, potentially.
I think
10 years from now.
I think we'll revisit the skin
Walker
in season 3.
You think so?
Yeah, that's going to be the right time for it.
Okay. Well, that's your call. And in retrospect, it was a bold move starting with that episode, by the way.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Kind of took on a life of its own, and we've been discussing variations of this theme ever since. Yeah. But I did tell you this once. It almost seems like wherever we started, we would have been at this place.
True, because it does all end up in the same place, it seems, with the monsters especially.
Yep. And I don't know, and some folks might say, oh, that was all scripted. And no, I mean, we did a lot of reading beforehand. We did some research because we like this stuff.
Yeah. And because of that, I'd say on the overall, we've started building a niche for ourselves in a way in the world of the paranormal. It's I like my new term paranerdalist that I started using to describe both of us. And I'm hoping that all the other paranerdalists out there who share our enthusiasm for this level of inspection of these things will find us, and it seems like so far so good.
Yeah,
slow but steady.
Yep, more to come, and please like and share. But tonight we review our first year in the ring, so to speak, and how close we are to solving this thing called monsters and all things unexplained, and to review what we got right, what we got wrong, next steps, all that good stuff. More importantly, are we on the right track? And why do those same tracks seem to change from human to wolf and back to human again?
It wasn't me, I swear.
Yeah, there we go. But I'd like to get this episode started properly. I always try to do an ambiance quote here. Uh-huh. And this is one that, I've outdone myself.
Nice.
You won't feel that way, but that's okay. What we discovered is how man's search for meaning is inextricably linked to man's search for monsters. Who do you think said that, Jeremy?
Man's search for monsters. Young.
Victor. That's a good guess, though, because I've done a lot of of Carl Jung has snuck into this season. Uh-huh. Victor Frankenstein. And if you get that joke, please email us at monsterloretour.com.
I'm going to send you some hate mail right now for that one.
Frankenstein. the quote, which is also more monstrous when you Frankenstein.
You Frankenstein Victor Frankl.
That's right.
Nice.
Well, I had a family member ask, though, why are we doing this? So I thought about it for a while, and here is the real quote to get us started.
Okay.
If a fear can't be articulated, it can't be conquered. Stephen King, Salem's Lot. Yeah.
Yeah, take the truth wherever you can find it, man.
We are going to articulate, and we are going to conquer. Maybe not in that order. We don't know.
Well, it sounds like that's how we have to do it, according to Stephen King. Yeah, and if anyone knows about monsters, it's Stephen King.
2 steps is beyond our ability to put in a proper order, potentially. It could get reversed.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
But this is a recap episode, and what we've learned so far, this is, I guess, the key point of what I've learned so far. I can't work with Jeremy, and I've asked Alex Bone to co-host season 2. How about you, Jeremy?
That's unfortunate. Because while you guys take the time to figure out which one of you will do all that post-production work that neither one of you knows how to do at this point.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you how I feel about working with you, Moz.
No, we don't do that back and forth thing.
With an actual quote from the real Viktor Frankl.
Dang.
When a man finds that it is in his destiny to suffer, he will have to accept his suffering as his task.
Viktor Frankled me. Just because I gave you that quote earlier. God, that's not fair.
You are my suffering, Moz.
Dang. It's very Sisyphus bound. No, wait. Sisyphus bound or unbound, Jeremy?
Sisyphus is very bound.
There you go.
Very bound.
Wow.
Unless he breaks that chain.
Jeremy passed his first quiz in season 1 right at the end.
Oh, you let me get that one right?
Well, I kind of, yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Maybe things are turning around a little bit. But this is primarily your episode to run here, Moz. But before you start, I do want to say seriously that I can't believe we've actually got through 50 episodes already. Like, it was a really long road getting this thing off the ground and actually like launching the podcast. And then all of a sudden it was like,
bam!
Oh my God! We snap our fingers and it's a year.
Yeah,
it was pretty crazy. Once you get these things rolling, it's amazing how fast they go. But I'm really enjoying rolling down this road from hate to love, and let's see how many people we can get on board in this second season coming up.
Well, I also wanted to thank you. I've done it before. I'm going to do it one more time. I didn't want to do this project. I thought, what else are we going to say about this? What a dumb quote. Mm-hmm. That was like my Viktor Frankenstein quote. It was dumb.
I saw it in you, Moz. I knew you could do it.
I think we accomplished stuff in season 1. We are on the path down the crossroads to figure things out, or as Jeremy puts it, the road from hate to love.
Yeah.
We recorded in several locations in Arizona this year, I think.
Actually, I believe it was 7.
7.
If you count like all the interviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I recorded in 7 different places in Arizona.
8 if you count the back of your Uber.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you've talked about us doing that. We haven't had to resort to that yet.
No, it hasn't happened
when
yet.
we both get kicked out of our respective establishments, that's where we're going to be podcasting.
The next things we record may be at the Lily Ponds, which would make 8.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that would be really cool. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, awesome.
We just make sure we're actually prepared because there is no internet out there.
But I do want to get like into a season kind of Roundupdate, and this is a review back to where we started, the categories and definitions and understanding of monsters and some of the sciences behind such phenomenon keeps changing and growing. But are we closer to actual answers? I think so. And more than that, why isn't what we discussed that much? It is discussed. I don't want to say we're coming up with stuff, it just doesn't. It seems to be. I don't know. I think we're just highlighting some things that seem to be like, wait, this might be important.
Yeah, we're just scratching the surface at this point, I think.
And what do you find when you scratch at the surface? Back to that Graham Hancock quote. You find shaman.
Shaman.
There you go. But I found my own answers independently, citing my sources. But as it turns out, monster theories and anthropologists are already way ahead of us, which is both validating and annoying, I have to admit. But it's actually a very exciting time between monster theory in literature and monster theory in anthropology and what's happening right now with cryptozoology. This is the perfect time to really do this.
It does kind of feel like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, and not just for your monster side, but for my UFO, UAP side.
Everything on your side's breaking. Everything on the monster side is culminating.
Yeah.
It's going to be it's going to be great.
And like with the way we tend to record well ahead of time, it's like hard to even stay up on all the disclosures going on and stuff.
It's hard to stay
so
up
many things.
For very long recording sessions too.
Yeah.
But for our intro episode, we had a list of what we thought might be monsters. So I kind of harkened back to that for the recap. And it was actually crazy that a lot of the stuff we talked about, we discussed. And they're going to be in next year's episode. And the first few episodes we kind of did as a regular podcast. We didn't put a ton of effort in. And as time went on, became more books, more thinking, more discussions, more and more and more. So, But back to that, we started with humans as monsters as one category. Update on that. This from Stephen Asma, 2009, on monsters. The term monster is often applied to human beings who have, by their own horrific actions, abdicated their humanity. In the fragility of goodness, Martha Nussbaum makes the Aristotelian argument that our humanity is indeed a fragile mantle, one that can be corrupted by forces internal and external to us. Like Hecuba in the Greek tragedy, who finds her child dead, a human being can lose so much that is precious to her, through war or persecution or chance, that she sinks to the level of an animal or worse. Everyone has the potential to become monsters. That's it at the end of the day.
So that this category would include the sisters amongst us.
We wondered why they didn't actually coin the phrase between witch and between sorcerer and between this. We came up with a better one. And we run with sisters, which we shouldn't, but we can because this is our kindergarten.
I run with sisters, baby.
Exactly.
I'm a bad boy.
Another angle on man as monster, teratology, the study of malformations and genetic anomalies. Chan, and you have the Siamese twins one coming up, so you might be hitting that again.
I have it on the list for next season. I got a big old book about their whole life, but the original Siamese twins, the conjoined twins that gave the name Siamese twins to the category because they were from Siam. But yeah, that's going to be, it might even end up being a two-parter. There's a lot behind those guys, man, let me tell you, but that's definitely coming up in season 2.
Well, there's real anatomical and biological mysteries with implications for human consciousness and monster theory when we talk about where someone begins and where someone else ends, that in-between part. We already did doppelgangers again, which was kind of related to that, but more to come in that category.
And I actually have a quote for you on another take on the human as monster theory.
Ooh, hit me with it.
I just recently watched War, Inc. for the first time, starring John Cusack, and here is a quote from him in that movie. Did you know that the word person comes from the Latin word persona, which means mask? And maybe being human means we invite spectators to ponder what lies behind. Each of us would be composed of a variety of masks, and if we can see behind the masks, we would get a burst of clarity. And if that flame was bright enough, that's when we fall in love. What do you think of that, Moz? Is perceived reality just a disguise for the true reality that lies behind?
More importantly, did you John Cusack me because of my doppelganger? Yeah, my doppelganger side trail?
I have been waiting to Cusack you.
You've been waiting
for so long, and I found a moment.
Right in the face. Oh.
It was a night where I had been working on this script, and that I finished working, and I watched that movie, and I heard him say that, and was like, hold on a second. And I paused it, and I came in and wrote that.
Dang. Well, one of the things, I'll just say this on that. Did you know the word from person comes from the Latin word persona? I'm a Neil Youngian, and I get my Neil Youngian work from Bob Dylan and
Neo-Youngian.
A Neo-Youngian.
Neo-Youngian.
Yeah, but I get my information from actual Neo-Youngians and Carl Jung.
Yeah.
So I'm reading a couple of Jungs right now. I know it gets pretty Carl Jung. Don't be afraid. We've got some we got some monsters coming. Don't worry. But I also think you just brought up persona because I'm thinking that this is a Bubbles thing again.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But next we have the real McCoys. No, don't encourage him. Okay. Was anyone encouraging him?
You're encouraging him, Moz.
Yeah, that's right. We're the only two.
You want to finish this season alive or not?
Only Bugs and Daffy here.
I do not encourage Bubbles ever.
You're clear about that.
I've become very good about that.
Yeah, well done, sir. But the next section we have the real McCoys. Throwing a net over a Bigfoot. We still want to find those more substantial creatures running around the woods. We've not given up on them. After all, they are why most of us are here at this Monster Lore Tour, for the ginormous. I picked this season Megalania, just a big lizard, and no way connected to David Icke or the Reptilian Agenda or Gecko commercials or the Lust Lizard of Melancholy Cove or shamans.
Are you sure they're not connected to the Lust Lizard of Melancholy Cove?
They might be.
I was kind of hoping there was a connection.
There's a scene in that book that was just one of the funniest written. Anyway, I also have Owl Week up next. That's on the Moz front, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I have an episode entirely dedicated to Big Hoot, just a giant owl that likes to feast on human flesh. I mean, good times. I mean, what's funner than that?
Wow. Okay, then.
Yeah. But just writing these episodes attracted the local owls. We have Mike Cleland in the house. Apparently, he's been visiting us. If it isn't him, things could be much worse.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so our Us-Files are going to be interesting. And I only told you part of the story. You have had owl weirdness since it started, and it's intertwined in my... You don't even know how it's intertwined in my owl weirdness.
Yeah.
We will be discussing that soon.
I have some crazy owl stories from before this podcast was even a glimmer in our young eyes, Moz.
Your glimmer, what was your creature? The gremlins, the glimmer?
The Glimmerwudgie?
Your Glimmerwudgies are nothing compared to what's about to be dropped on episode
They are translucent.
5 of my Owl Week.
Yeah, nothing is a relative term.
Yeah. No, it's going to get weird.
And for Owl Week, which is actually a month long in September, I'm going to be doing the side trails for you. And it's going to be a multi-parter, true crimey sort of thing, so that when the side trail compilation comes out after the 4 Owl Week episodes, it will be basically a true crime episode.
Nice. That sounds great.
Try to keep the variety going.
Oh, that's good. But remember, before we move away from Owl Week, because your side trails are part of my Owl Week, when the going gets weird, the weird turn owl.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's coming.
Hoot, hoot, baby.
Exactly. Our next monstrous category is monstrous microcosm. I kind of threw this in just because I happened to be reading Mary Jane Rubenstein's Pantheologies during episode 1. When I got her to our chapter called Heil, it really helped me to understand just how monstrous the colonizers of tiny creatures within us, the monsters inside, really are.
Heil, H-Y-L-E.
Yes.
What's that a reference to?
Matter. So it's basically getting back to the little pieces of matter. But this is just one section of that chapter.
Breaking it down to the basic form.
Yeah, but since taking this Monster Lore tour, it's hard for me to find out if this relationality between and these ontonic relationships ever really end, because it starts out with prokaryotic and eukaryotic battles.
Yeah.
And then it gets, China, Russia, and U.S. battles,
It's that self-similar repeating fractal of existence that I think I've mentioned a couple times.
Yep. Biology points to relationality with these microscopic hordes all the way down smaller and smaller. It's mind-boggling, but, no mind yet. And I'm beginning to suspect it's relationality and ontonic relationships from pre-Homo sapiens all the way up. Where does the individual human even fit into this scheme? It's kind of blowing my mind a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we'll be doing an episode on monstrous microcosm, which kind of relates to your mycelium, by the way.
Yep, it sure does. They're going to connect in a major way. But you say no mind yet, but I found this Anton Petrov YouTube video recently that he talks about how they've discovered that the blood-brain barrier is not what we thought it was, and that we actually have a microbial biome in our brain just like we have in our guts. So like you've heard of the gut brain?
Right.
We also have a brain. So where's the line drawn between those two brains? Or are they just the same thing? And is it one thing, or is it all those trillions of little things?
Yeah.
Plays a lot into the concept that I was just talking about with the variance and scale fractal of existence. It's the same on every level all the way down.
Yes.
All the turtles are the same. They're just different
turtles
sizes.
all the way up, turtles all the way down.
Yeah.
Good. I think Ken Wilber did something on that. But the other piece of that whole piece of that is that it ties into Wedico, and it ties into the monstrous microcosm. And we're going to do an episode on Wedico. We're going to do an episode on mycelium. And we're going to do an episode on monstrous microcosm, basically.
Yeah. I'm doing the panspermia episode too, after Owl Week, and that's going to touch on it too in some ways you might not expect.
Exactly. Looks like we have a good amount of stuff on the small and weird next season. And Danny DeVito to host. As I said, Jeremy will not be joining us.
Oh, dude, if you're bringing in Danny DeVito, I'll just produce. I'll let him take my place at the mic.
And the Alex, the Riga to my De Palma.
Yeah, right? That would have worked so much better. I'll even write his scripts for him. Danny DeVito, if you're listening, please email us at monsterloator@gmail.com.
But we are trying to bridge the gap between the micro and the macro relationality and finally break that totem ontonic code. Do you know what I call that, Jeremy?
The TOC.
the totem Itonic code, or, in parentheses, what you said. So, well done. But next we have mindfulness monsters. I mentioned this as another thing because I was just thinking, well, I've come across this before. Will this have any relevance to the podcast? I don't know. But mindfulness monsters is something I thought about after reading Atman Project from Ken Wilber, who you just said with Turtles Up, Turtles Down. And I feel like there's a tie-in between meditation, levels of consciousness, and monsters at each threshold and within each altered state of consciousness, which might prove, we'll at least find other areas of inquiry, basically.
Sure.
There's definitely a theory percolating, my monster chakra alert system. And it'll be on everybody's phone eventually.
It's brilliant if you can make it work.
You're slipping to the root chakra again.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. It won't be, there'll be no privacy issues.
Your vibration is dangerously askew.
You were just making a joke. You were looking at me when you said that, so it's probably true.
Yeah, sure. I was kidding, sure.
But this is definitely where we want to look to astral encounters, as well as some Steiner and Swedenborg thrown in there, and Robert Monroe and Carlos Castaneda. And if we get in long enough, I really want to do the whole, Mara Hogg and astral attack kind of stuff. I'm looking forward to that. Yep.
There you go. So I think there actually may be one more class of monster we have added to the list in season 1. We found in a number of topics the potential for, and this isn't going to surprise people who have listened to me a lot, interdimensionality of some cryptids, and particularly cryptoids in the Cryptoid Palooza episode, as well as with the UAP investigations and the Mojave incident, which just got covered and all that. Where would we classify these potential interdimensional phase-shifting sort of beasts, Moz? It seems to me they need their own category, because I can't find any pre-existing bucket that you've pulled out that they would fit into, really.
If you're breaking the buckets down into two, it's cryptid, cryptoid. Creature in the woods that we can throw a net over. Most of our season has been in the cryptoid camp.
Right.
We're going to talk about this episode, so maybe I shouldn't jump ahead.
Okay.
I think we get there. Maybe we do. All right, now that we've reviewed our table of monstrous elements, let's review what we've been up to here on the Monster Lore Tour over the past year. I spent most of my first year focusing on shamanic energies, the shape-shifting phenomenon, so prevalent across time and across the globe. The shamanic process seems to be intimately tied into the monster phenomenon, therianthropes, cryptid sightings, and beyond. They just keep, kind of circling back.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Can beings of power transform, manipulate energies, and or psychically attack their enemies? That's a question. The monster phenomenon also seems to be hinged on the individual's openness and believability on the receiving end of the experience. It's all very quantum. Our states of mind, cultural background, expectations, and fear all play their role, and this does not mean it's ahu guano. We didn't plan where this would take us. It's and actually we're catching up with the leading edge of cryptozoology and anthropology within a year, which is
trying
both,
anyway. We're running.
Seems like
we're running.
We're running with scissors.
Running with scissors as fast as we can towards that cutting edge.
Yeah, and I
see that cutting edge. Running with scissors.
What you did that. Yeah, we're on the cutting edge right now. It's true. But yes, I had read some of this stuff ahead of time and starting to hone in my focus when we actually started this project. But now I'm reading more crypto-anthropologists like Sharon Mertz, Yasmin Mashabush, and Samantha Hearn, who, like many other Earthlings, are way ahead of me. But varying ontological relational entities and quantum monster theory is not where I thought we would be ending season 1. If we did this for 20 years, I thought we'd be ending it on quantum monster theory.
Right.
And now I'm discussing monster, after, a handful of episodes, basically.
Yep.
Good times.
Yeah, it's funny how those silly humans are so far ahead of us, isn't it, Moss? Yeah, I don't know what else there is to say about that.
Well, I said it.
Yeah, you said it, Moss. You covered it. I was going to take a turn talking, but yeah, you got it.
What have the paranormal realms and cryptozoology discovered about themselves, is what I asked.
Ooh, introspection.
Yeah, we got some of that here. This from Introduction to Monster Studies 2018. It'll be in the show notes with the authors. Monster Studies investigates monsters and the monstrous and the monstrous and the monstral. through a wide range of methodologies that include anthropology, biology, the classics, cultural studies, gender studies, geography, history, literature, philosophy, religion, and zoology. Our interest in a monster studies reader focused on English literature, and by positioning the monster as the locus of inquiry, we hoped this critical lens would help us to reconceptualize the historically, nationally, and generically defined literary canon that scaffolds and codifies a set of institutional and curricular traditions, conventions, discourses, and practices. You know what that means to me?
You're rethinking the whole game.
They're getting really serious about this from all these disparate fields and all these areas are kind of coming together.
Together,
Because
yes.
everybody's thinking about this stuff. Everybody's seeing this stuff. Our friends are seeing this stuff.
And maybe they're realizing what we're realizing by doing this podcast, that all of this stuff is connected and overlapping in some way. You know, there's a thread running through it all.
Yeah.
And we want to know where it starts, where it ends, where it goes.
Yeah, they didn't even say all of them. There's mythology. They missed psychological, cryptozoological, consciousness theory, the stuff we're talking about. Mm-hmm. You know, so... And most of us just would rather be in the woods with Cliffy, Renee, and Bobo, bang some tree trunks, and read Heidegger to find monsters. You know, None of this makes a lot of sense to me in a way, and I've been interested in cryptozoology for a long time. You know, but I knew immediately this was going to take it was going to take a village with pitchforks and torches. Yeah.
Lots of screaming and yelling.
Eventually, we will be chased out of the garage, kids.
Yeah.
But we will film it and put a YouTube thing going.
The question is, which one of us is the doctor and which one of us is the monster?
Whoa. That comes up when we have our impromptu reading from a person in the know.
Oh, okay.
And it is related to Owl Week and our mutual reading that you're not aware of yet.
Oh, my goodness. He hides so much from me.
I know.
You're obviously the monster with all the secrets you keep
I'm
from
not
me.
hiding. Danny DeVito next season. You're not here. Don't worry about it.
I'm looking forward to that. I really hope that's true. I will produce that podcast.
There you go. But this isn't new. I think professionals finally hit some tipping point where they're begrudgingly exploring the possibilities. On that note, I found an old Loren Coleman conversation with Ivan T. Sanderson on why he hated this shift to monster weirdness. Do you mind reading this one? Do you want to give it a shot?
Yeah, sure. I'll read it for you. When Jerry Clark and I wrote our first two books in the mid-1970s, we suggested that UFOs and monsters were psychic projections of a collective unconscious, literal thought forms which took on a solid state existence, be they footprints where a UFO not stepped, or the knocking out of witnesses by a mad gasser. As we observed, extraterrestrial spaceships simply could not be touring the Earth in the massive numbers UFO sightings suggest. Neither could massive numbers of large unknown animals be roaming countryside and city streets without long ago having been officially recognized and cataloged, and probably driven into extinction as well. Moreover, they could not have done all this in such numbers without providing us with more conclusive physical evidence than they have given us so far. The physical evidence is always just enough to suggest that the reported manifestation was not purely hallucinatory. It is never enough to prove that it may be objectively real.
And that's from Loren Coleman, 2001, Mysterious America. I've heard, Loren Coleman pops up in all these things we all watch. Yeah. He doesn't say stuff like this. And it's that shift from cryptid that he loves to this cryptoid that is being kind of dragged into. We jumped in, we got dragged immediately, cryptoid word.
Right.
And we weren't happy about it either to some degree, but it was just, we're just catching up. Mm-hmm. Just catching up. We're reading all these folks, we're trying to figure this out. But or as Carl Sagan always adds to this abductee genre, which is related, the number of abductees for the whole planet would be more than 100 million people. This means an abduction every few seconds over the past few decades. It's surprising more their neighbors haven't noticed. That from Carl Sagan, Demon Haunted World. Now, in part I added that in part because of your last episode.
Okay. If they flip a switch and just spin you into their tesseract, no one knows you're gone.
Nah.
No one saw it happen.
Well,
if they're able to wipe memory, with the exception of very rare cases, I don't know. Maybe hundreds of millions of people are getting abducted all the time.
Well, he's not disagreeing with you entirely, and that's why I love Carl, and here's his next quote. There's no doubt that humans commonly hallucinate. There's considerable doubt about whether extraterrestrials exist to frequent our planet or abduct and molest us. We might argue about details, but the one category of explanation is surely much better supported than the other. The main reservation you might then have is, why do so many people today report this particular set of hallucinations? Why somber little beings and flying saucers and sexual experimentation? And again, falling into these buckets, falling into these themes, he notices that, at least from a psychological perspective.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot deeper than that. I'm not going to just, but this is where Carl at least takes one step into the ontological penumbra towards us. So let's give him some credit.
Yeah, that kind of overlaps with my last episode, too, with the Mojave incident.
Exactly.
In the previous episode, like a lot of those aliens in that appeared no more than energy forms. They communicated through telepathy. They controlled the thoughts and minds of those they abducted. So it hits a point for me that I have to ask, even if it's all in our heads, does it make it any less real, though? That's something that it always comes back to for me as well. And what is the how and why of it? Like,
I have an answer.
Okay.
It happens in between. It's in between what you said and in between monster, in between your experience. That's exactly what's happening. It's more than something in your head. And it's less, maybe less than something we can throw a net over. Maybe.
Yeah, there you go. It's in the,
the Twilight Zone, for lack of a better term.
Not necessarily interdimensional, but between dimensions even. Like it might not even have a solid base where it is physical. It just kind of drifts through and around.
But we're going to find it's a lot more than ethereal. It's a lot more than in someone's individual mind, and it's a lot more relevant to our lives and to our future and to our developmental growth. That's my opinion.
I like that.
There you go. This is my main reservation with the theory of it all being in our head. I think, Mr. Sagan, why do so many shape-shifting creatures keep crawling off said reservation? And here's the answer to what Ivan Sanderson, when we started with, between your quote there, Loren Coleman was talking about, I'm sick of being dragged here. What's happening, Ivan? And he's actually, the grandfather of cryptozoology, Ivan Sanderson, he's actually emailing him.
Okay.
And here's Ivan Sanderson's response to Carl when Loren is complaining about the cryptoidness. Damn it, I don't like this sort of parapsychical stuff, and I have kept strictly off it for 20 years now, despite ever-increasing volumes of evidence, so-called. But in view of Jacques Vallée's ponderings on UFOs and holograms and solid matter projections, meaning one can only assume teleportation, I begin to wonder if the time has not come to take the proverbial ox by its frontal excrescences and tackle the issue frontally also. However, it might do more harm than good, because it might put all of us serious-minded and sane Fordians birthed back into the kook class in the eyes of both the genuine scientists and the newsmen. Quandary! Exclamation point.
Yeah. Kook
and
class,
that was also from Loren Coleman's Mysterious America. But this was a conversation between two greats. I mean, Loren Coleman, great of today, is probably the champion of today, and Ivan Sanderson, the champion of the generation before.
Yeah.
And they're arguing about, why are we being dragged into this weird stuff? Why is everybody we're talking to talking about all these themes?
Damn it, why can't monsters be straightforward?
Yes, and Loren Coleman, is a zoologist. He doesn't want to deal with this shit.
Yeah.
In his defense,
yeah,
and I totally get that. But I think the difference with us, Jeremy, is we embrace and almost wallow in the kook class. So
wallowing like hogs.
There.
I don't know. I don't like wallowing. It's too dirty. But I do embrace this concept with, much love from the paranerdalist part of my brain.
One of us.
One of us. One of us.
But the Us Files, which became this thing that we discuss what our dearest friends, I guess our closest circles of friends, or we or our family experienced, interesting to note, our Us Files have grown as we look into areas and deeply explore these concepts. Shit is happening, and I warned Jeremy that it might. And I think it's an opportunity for people to call Ahu Guano on us. But we swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me Godzilla.
As best we can, as best we know how.
Yeah. But we do have to remember to do that during our interviews. We get away from Godzilla sometimes.
I haven't been swearing people in, that's true.
Yep. So
I talk to them beforehand to vet them, is what I do.
there we go. But we had great fun interviewing friends about their experiences. But it was a highlight for me to interview Hans Bethe Award winner and Astronomer of the Year back in the day, Dr. David Arnett. You know, his one request, let's talk chaos theory. We didn't do it. We totally out-chaosed him.
We didn't get there. He had a time limit kind of thing, you know.
He just said at the end, I know how long a lecture is, but we ended up
That's
doing...
exactly what he said. He's like, okay, I think we're done. I know how long a lecture is. And I looked at the clock. I was like, that's spot on, an hour and a half. This guy knows what he's doing.
Well, but for those of you also wondering why we didn't do more on our end, we had to jump around because we each had 1,000 questions.
Yep.
We really ended up talking more about, his life and his accomplishments. And it was a fascinating interview. So if you get a chance, go check that one out.
Yeah, it was still great. And we are going to try to get him back on at some point in season 2 for just a straight up discussion on chaos theory.
That would be awesome.
And I think he had some stuff to talk about on the UFO front as well. So we're really going to try for not just us, but everyone out there to get him back on for another interview in season 2.
I think we're going to find people are going to be more excited about the first interview than the second.
And this is the time in our typical episode where we would probably start getting into our theories section.
That's just theoretical.
Yeah, very theoretical, as this is a very different formatted sort of episode for us.
Yep.
But I think we should still get into a theory section, but just do kind of a bigger overall thing. And you got probably the biggest theory we've been building through your episodes, Maz. You want to start out with your shamanic shapeshifter complex theory?
Yes. Obviously, my monster theory shifted shaman word almost immediately.
Yeah. Those damn skin
walkers.
They're nothing but
trouble. But just as noted, I've talked about this before a little bit. Red Fern and Steiger talk shapeshifters. Rosemary Ellen Guiley talks jinn. Paul Levy talks Wedico or mind virus. I've been drifting toward the drum circle a bit. And most of these tribes are not talking about jinn or mind viruses. They talk about Steve down the way and his ability to turn into a were-jaguar.
Right. I know that guy. Yeah,
that guy.
He's right over there.
He's got a jaguar totem. It's cool. He's cool. He gets me beer.
Yeah.
But I keep finding the name of the shape-shifting monster of a given region, and you've really honed in on this when it happens, that it matches the shaman of the area.
So, yeah, like the actual word for monster, word for shaman, almost like one letter off.
Yeah, so everything we explore, we find the same thing.
Yep.
Or I came up with an equation for this, 2 + 2 = 14.
Nice.
That's me being clever.
14.
Yeah, that's me being clever.
I get it.
That doesn't happen. This is the first time this season. It's
I
right
like
at
bad
the end.
puns. That was very good.
It was terrible. But not going to go through it again, but it's all covered through my season, obviously.
Yeah.
But shamanism, I have a quote from an Encyclopedia of Shamanism by Christina Pratt, and I have referenced her several times during the season. She's been kind of a go-to. Shamanism is not routine. As soon as you touch it, even intellectually, the spirit touches you. Shamanism demands more of all of us. More humor, more imagination, more intelligence, and more room for the trickster in all things.
Ah, I like that. More room for the trickster.
Well, what she just described is Monster Lore Tour podcast.
Yeah, she really did.
So that's why I'm reading that.
You're right. I was wondering why I liked that so much. That's our podcast.
That's why she is our Mad Cujo's Award winner for the best quote of this.
Oh, Mad
final.
Cujo's.
Down boy!
Did you have a Mad Cujo's for this one? You can have one. You should probably go back and...
Actually, I think I wrote one in later. If we get to the end and I didn't do one, I'll do one.
Okay. So the other sub-theme here, and I did expect this one because I'm a mythos guy. So the mythic theory I knew would be here. I knew it was part of this. I knew it would get us going each week. I didn't realize, in some ways, again, how intertwined everything would be. For our most steady listeners, this is going to not be any surprise. But you might be asking, why is myth so important? That's where you're wrong, O'Neill. Mythology is the primary motivation of all cultural development. Do you have a guess at who said that quote?
O'Neill.
You're never going to get it. Except it's, like I say, it's a TV show.
Meta World Peace talking to Shaq?
Wow. I'm just going to give you credit for that, even though
Sweet.
it's
Well, you said
Daniel
O'Neill.
Jackson talking to Jack O'Neill on Stargate 1.
Oh, Stargate.
Yeah,
That makes more sense.
that's exactly right. This started out as one of my interests, so it's going to be in here. At the edge of all cultural, linguistic, cognitive, and moral disciplines, here be monsters. Signs are still posted at all those familiar limits. And why do we always find a monster, a trickster, a devil, and a shaman at those junctures and crossroads? And that old blues guy, what the heck is he doing there? We're going to find out.
He's waiting for the devil.
He's waiting for a harmonica. The devil gives him some kind of instrument, and then he plays it really well.
Right, harmonica, guitar, or something.
Yeah, or you do the spoons.
Spoons, yes. That's how I learned to play, actually.
Yeah. And then anthropology got so exciting through this whole thing. I didn't think it was going to get as exciting as it did, because I think, and I love Claude Lévi-Strauss, and I went back to Franz Boas, and I love reading all the greats from back in the day. But the field of anthropology today, I didn't think they're taking up the challenge right now.
Yeah, they're actually turning their focus towards a wider scope, let's say.
Yeah, there's always been people like pointing this out in the field that, hey, there might be more here, because they go live with the tribe and they're like, hey, everyone, they come back to the office and they're like, oh boy, Fred's a little weird again. Yeah. But this year I discovered the work of Samantha Hearn, and to quote Senator Palpatine, we will be watching her career with a keen interest.
Yes. Keen interest indeed.
And I also loved Yasmin Mashabush. Again, a little more on the Scully Muggle side. Those of you who know what that means, know what that means. I'm going to do a quote from her. I still love her stuff. Every field site has monsters, spooky, menacing, terrifying beings who lurk in the shadows and the dark under beds and caves and lakes beyond the line of sight and in the imagination. Some cause mischief, others protect, a great number of them instill fear, many terrorize, and a few may even kill. All provide substance for conversation and, importantly, for action. Monsters are blood-curdlingly potent of meaning, and anthropology has engaged with them since its inception. Yet, and curiously, anthropology has not substantially joined in with the burgeoning interdisciplinary field of monster studies.
Wow. What a statement. Every field site has monsters. Yeah, it really does baffle me how the so-called scientists will see all this monster stuff in every culture, every time period, and decide it's not important. Or decide
Richard Dawkins, we're talking to you.
Yeah, there you go. The monsters are as much a part of any oral tradition, any other myth and lore, But for some reason, our anthropologists, that just like they don't give it credence. And I'm glad you're finding people in the field, like actual people in the field like that, who are recognizing this shortcoming in their own industry and, hopefully trying to do something to overcome that and change it. Oh, here we go. I feel like Yasmin should get some Mad Kujos, Maz.
I might have given her one this year, but I don't think
I'm giving her another one.
Down boy!
Do
Mad
it.
Kujos, Yasmin.
Do it. I'm not going to complain.
Mad Kujos.
So you know this, Jeremy. I started this project reading original older sources, many available from the Internet Archive, and I came to conclusions pretty quickly. Like, we started to get this back and forth, like, wow, this is kind of going in a direction here. Cryptozoologists are not oblivious to this either, particularly, I would say, Brad Steiger, but also, Nick Redfern, Loren Coleman, et al. Mm-hmm. But near the end of this first season, I really started to follow these leads more anthropological words, and the field has clearly made all these same connections. As we said, there's more than Sharon Mertz, who we talked about with the were-crocodiles. She's actually in Samantha Hearn's next book that I'm going to be discussing next season. So, what J.G. Peterson with the Banjakery. All these guys, and there's more. There's more that go into these places. They show a keen interest in the tribes dealing with shapeshifters and the global commonalities therein. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But anthropology is starting to do a fabulous job, and I don't understand why.
Well, it's good. The gift horse in the mouth thing, man.
These things have been going on for a long time, and I don't think without extra voices they're actually going to make any difference, because they've been saying this stuff When we go back to J.J. Peterson, that was in the 70s. When we go back to Narby, what was that, the 90s? Like, people have been saying this stuff for 100 years. They go in with the tribe and they say there's more to this than meets the eye.
Right. Our culture, I think, globally is shifting toward a place that will be more accepting of these things and will be more curious rather than just denying.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, instead of just writing it off, they're actually going to go, wait, what is that?
The needle is moving, and I'm excited about it, but I don't know, is it going to be just a blip again, and the Richard Dawkins are going to take back over the head of the department and fire everyone who's talking this way?
Right.
Because, or talking this way?
I mean, it's a relevant question, sure, but at the moment, the pendulum swings, man. And everybody who's on one, the farther out edges of the radius of the swing are always hoping that it's going to break when it's on their side and go flying off that way.
But which way is the pit and the pendulum going is what we've got to figure out.
I think right now it's swinging our way.
Nice.
The question is, how far will it go, and will it swing back?
They cryptid our way.
Don't do that.
ever again. Yep. Picking back on Sharon Mertz for a minute, I just mentioned her. I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I think she would say, after living with a tribe for 13 years, that there was a certain internal consistency with how people were behaving toward what the Bebelibe, she did her work for over a decade in West Bend, Africa, referred to as the invisible parts of the world, our area of expertise. in particular, the Sawase bush beings. This consistency evoked in her a certain, what the heck's actually going on here, which in anthropology they call, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, it's a great question to ask in those situations.
And when I did that episode on crocodile shapeshifters from Mertz's study, it's a 300-page study, I was keenly aware of these little background dwarf guys kind of running around the background because they reminded me of the Banjakri and
your
everything
Pukwudgie
else.
moment.
Yeah, the Pukwudgies.
That's your Pukwudgie moment.
Exactly. It's a sub-theme in these episodes. Short, hairy creature teachers.
I even had the Pukwudgie in my Mojave incident with the Glimmerwudgie.
Yeah, exactly. So they even little guys were crawling around the desert in your last episode.
Yeah.
But I since found more Mertz hidden, in that Hearns thing, and it gets weirder. And the only thing I'm going to say, because I do want to go into this more in depth at some point, but here's Sharon Mertz. This is a really good recap for the year. Everybody I spoke with affirmed that the Siawase exist and that they seek to have reciprocal relationships with certain people. Those chosen by the Siawase often become diviners and are instructed by the Siawase. Thus, the Siawase intermediary role is not mythical, but very real. This is Sharon Mertz in another study talking back, because she was talking about were-crocodiles in our episode. I didn't spend over a decade with this tribe, but I was drawn to the similarities of these little hairy people. So I kind of said, I bet you they're the creature teachers, right? We talked about this. And I didn't know at that time until I recently bought this book, which I read at Bones' house when he was off gallivanting in California. But Mertz has really taken that final step into the ontological penumbra, declaring these are a thing. Science, start figuring it out.
Yeah, yeah. Catch the Pukwudgie fever. Catch it.
But I don't know if I missed it in the first one, but the reality is you identify these things, they seem like other things, you kind of can figure out what they might be doing. Why are they doing what we expect them to be doing as just guys reading some of these things that come across our desk?
Ooh, that's an interesting way to put it. Why are they doing what we expect them to be doing? Because maybe we
quantumly are making it happen.
We're creating
Don't
them.
quantum me. I'm going to quantum you in a minute, but I have quantum coming up.
But I already did, so it's already done. Unless you want to spin back the other way.
Well,
it's always dangerous, though. Never cross the spins.
Streams.
Never cross the spins.
Yeah. You
just cancel each other out.
No, I get it. But I was shocked.
You want to hear a poem, Ira?
Do it.
It's called Hypothetical.
Hypothetically, I don't want to hear this.
Yeah. One hypothetical particle turned to another and said, hypothetically speaking, say you spun right and I spun left and we tried getting together. How do you think that would go? The other turned around and said, let's give it a whirl.
Oh.
And when they got together, it was suddenly as though they had never existed at all, which at that point, of course, they hadn't.
Wow. I got to think about
I wrote
this
that 10 years ago.
Wait, you wrote that?
Yeah, I wrote that 10 years ago.
But it brings in the spin and the
Actually,
whirlwind.
3 days from now, it will be exactly 10 years ago.
But we keep talking about the themes we keep coming across, and it's whirlwind is one of them.
Yep.
And spin is one that you've been on about. I've been whirlwind. I've been myth, so I've been talking about whirlwind. Creatures depicted in mythos in different parts of the country and the world as beings of power as whirlwinds. You're talking spin and science.
Yep.
And the same thing.
Hypothetical particles and shit.
Whistle. We have to find out what whistle means, Because whistle's another one that keeps coming up from the mythos side.
Yeah.
Has to mean something on the scientific
I had
side.
a young native gentleman that I drive around a lot these days in Flagstaff. In my car, we were talking about some things connected to the podcast. And he brought up the whistling thing. He's like, did they tell you not to whistle? I'm like, my partner tells me that all the time. And he says, you know why they do that?
Paranormal partner to you.
And the way he explained it is whistling is the language of the first world. We are currently in the fourth world. We've been working our way up. Each world we're like more conscious, more aware, more capable, like, we're more powerful every world we move up. So each world progressively gets better, basically. The lowest level, first world, is just darkness.
Wow.
And it's where the demons live. It's where the evil live. Everything creeping around in the dark kind of creature. You don't have a lot of sense. Like when we were there, I don't think we even really had a physical form. We were just kind of floating around in the dark.
Yeah, the undifferentiated. Is this Navajo?
But
is this a Navajo?
This is Navajo. This would be Navajo lore, yes. But apparently whistling is the language of the first world. It's the language they use in the dark to communicate. So when you whistle in the fourth world, you're calling the evil things from the first world to here, and that's not a good thing to do.
I'll never watch the Andy Griffith Show the same way again.
Yeah.
But how long you been, because we've been talking about whistling, how long you been holding this out on me?
Oh, that was a week or two ago.
Okay. All right.
That's actually fresh information that I got, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But again, why they keep popping off the page? Same themes, same things. Now, we are doing speculative fiction. We are doing theory. We are doing ahuguano, total batshit theories.
Yep, we sure are.
But when we hone in on something of meaning, we're going to try to collect it in a bucket, and we're going to try to say, hey, here's what we got out of this that we think might be actually meaningful. And we're going to have a fun time doing it. And it's an informed cryptid comment in a way.
Right.
So we're not just coming out from...
For all our silly jokes and all our wacky theories, we try to bring you the real info and like more of the real info than you would normally expect to get from a podcast like this.
Yeah.
Not saying we always achieve that, but we're always trying to do that.
Well said. Well said. And I also brought up the psychological stuff a lot, and we'll be continuing that with season 2. We'll be diving more into that, hopefully. Finding Fabio Armand's thought experiment widened the rails for me of possibilities. He's this guy that, that neurocognitive thought experiment he did, and I want to thank him for that.
Yeah.
We'll be discussing
Should we give him some mad cujos?
We already did.
It's a season finale.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is almost like the All-Star team.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
it's like
put
All-Star
Fabio
Weekend.
Armand.
We're going to call it MLT All-Star Weekend.
I love it. Do it.
Mad cujos, Mr. Armand.
Down boy!
And we got the Fear Contagion and Paul Levy next season as well. But fear itself is such a huge psychological monster generator.
It's the only thing we have to fear.
Is fear, Paul? Did you FDR me in the middle?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But get this quote. Humans, this is from the self-deceiving brain. Humans, perhaps uniquely among all creatures, understand that they are mortal and that death is inevitable. This, according to terror management theorists, produces an incapacitating fear. Humans have adapted to such fear by turning to a variety of mental defenses, some of which involve invocations of supernatural forces. And I'll be in the show notes. But if you're not afraid, you might see something, but it might not be the same experience like by all around. But fear seems to be, I guess, the gasoline that's driving a lot of these encounters.
Oh, I agree that fear is a big part of things. We've talked about if you don't fear the monster, it can't hurt you in a lot of cases, but I don't actually accept, I need to make this point. I don't accept the theory that humans alone understand the concept of mortality. I think animals show plenty of signs of understanding.
That's your self-deceiving brain.
Well, animals show plenty of signs of understanding death. To put it simply, why does the gazelle run from the lion?
Yeah.
Because it knows it's going to die.
Yeah.
The only way I see humans as foundationally different from the animals is in our superiority complex, honestly, just thinking we're inherently better than them for some reason because we have vocal language and written language and things like that. It's our opposable thumbs. We got lucky. But, cats have it too, by the way, actually, that superiority complex.
No, I
thinking
know.
they're superior to all other beings. If you have a cat, it thinks it's better than you.
Oh, yeah.
I've had a lot of cats. I like cats. But they all
so
thought they were better than me.
Yeah.
But seriously, Maz, let's do it this way. Where do you stand on that? Do you think humans are foundationally different from other beasts when it comes to their understanding of inherent mortality? Don't you think that animals know they're going to die?
Well, Vedantam says humans perhaps are unique among all creatures. He is saying that.
Perhaps.
I think consciousness does move up. I would say it this way. A deer is going to look and see a mountain lion, and it's going to freak out and run. And if it's not...
It's going to run like an antelope, out of control.
Of its field of vision, it is going to go right back to exactly what it was doing, and it's going to be in a state of zen. We are going to carry that fear with us to the next stage, to the next stage, to the next stage.
Does that make us superior, or does that make...
I'm not saying it.
Aren't they handling that much better than we are, then?
As consciousness evolves, it becomes more complicated.
It sounds like they're more enlightened than we are.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can go back the romanticist route, back to totemism and stuff, and there's a big component to that I agree with.
Yeah.
But they're not at a level where they can actually do some of the things that we can do. And
right.
Consciousness does evolve, and we are the cutting edge of that on this planet at this moment, or with several other species probably around us.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
Yes, exactly.
And the octopus, yes.
Exactly.
The poor octopus. Left behind by the aliens, man.
Yeah, I know. We had to have Douglas Adams in the last episode, so well done, sir. But biology is another area we talked about, tetralogy and the physical limits of man and creatures. That's on the docket, so we got more coming on that. Spiritual consciousness theory. I think we're going to hear more about polyphasic cultures and different monster ontologies. Again, relationality all the way up and all the way down. But I think what we're finding so far is that a combination of individuals at specific and different levels of consciousness, and I think this ties it in a little bit, combined with cultural expectations or Bastian's Volkedanken, I keep going back to.
Volkedanken.
And an array of elementary forces associated with archaic neurobiology and unconscious processes. Well, you stick them in a blender, sprinkle in some Eye of Newt and Wing a Bat, and this wide array of paranormal phenomena and cryptid sightings tend to pour all over the kitchen counter, just like with your blender work.
I was going to say, that sounds like when I cook.
No, when you blend things in your blender. It's also
my
like
blender
that.
is my magic cauldron.
But thus we get the Demon Haunted World that's Coast to Coast AM is just kind of filled with.
That actually reminds me of the inertial mass reduction device that breaks space-time. You put the right velocity, spin, and vibration on an object, hit it with the right charge, and boom, break space-time. You just put the elements together.
Yeah. But again, those forces we talked about are part of the whirlwind, the whistling, the energy, the lightning. All these things that are important to the shaman are important to the scientist.
Yeah. I think really what we did in the first season is expand our personal understanding kind of exponentially of a number of areas of science and metaphysics and the unexplained that we had no idea that we'd even be getting into when we started this. We thought we were just going to be talking about monsters.
Yeah.
We didn't know what that meant. You know what I mean?
It's a disparate field, as Miss Masha Bush says.
What we'll see in next season, I hope, will be another leap, and shaping up to be a leap with the episodes we're planning. And I'm hoping we can convey some of the knowledge that we're picking up out to our listeners and relay some of that excitement that we have for the subjects, for both, the science part and the out on the edge stuff, and keep finding these different monsters in these different places and see how they connect and overlap and put them in that 4-dimensional Venn diagram that we're trying to build,
Well, if you followed that, and if everyone's with us now, I intend to completely lose you with this part.
Sorry, I'm riffing for our fans right there.
No, I'm riffing to lose you now. If you were following that, you would not follow this.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Because I have a teaser. I have a teaser. Because near the end of our first season, I already have a shamanic quantum monster theory. It's kind of in the works. So I'll share with you now, and we'll discuss next season when I figure out what I wrote. But it's back to Fabio Armand, and he was one of the inspirations for this in that episode. Monster, this is my quote, and we're going to figure it out next year together.
Oh, wait, this is something you wrote?
Yeah, this is my theory.
And I got to help you figure out what it means by next season?
1 year in, I have a quantum monster theory that I don't understand, but I think it's right.
Oh, that's so my thing. Let's go.
Monsters are created and or perceived in areas of ecstatic energy created by bistable, quantumly entangled ontonic relationships, that's Johannes Mertz, between shamans or other beings of power and their corresponding complementary, Niels Bohr, interdimensional totem animal or helper spirit, Fabio Armand.
Wow. That sounds to me like the monsters are us and we are the monsters, though.
Yeah. No, yeah, well, we're working on different sides of that little interdimensional thing that you were talking about last time with where they meet. Yeah,
overlaid right
the
on top of...
The monster is on one side.
We're each other's dark matter.
Right.
So to them, we're the monsters, and to the monsters, we're the monster, and to us, they're the monster.
Right.
It's all a matter of perspective, right? Who the bad guy is depends on which side you're on.
Right. And the energy spews out into both. And what happens also ties into your last episode with that what matters becomes what matters. Whoever loses that battle.
Where our matter stops mattering to us and starts mattering to them.
Yes.
That's where the next universe begins.
Exactly. So we're going to get to the end of the universe, which I hear there's a restaurant at the end of the universe. See, we went. You didn't need to do the Douglas.
I started an account 20 years ago with a few pennies in there. We're good to go whenever, dude. We just need to build that damn time machine that we've been trying to build for the last 2 years.
Let's do it. That brings us to our Ahu Guano files.
Oh, nice. We're doing one of those. Sweet. Ahu Guano Theory of the Week. Oh, no. Here it comes. Quick. To the batshit signal.
You might have thought my quantum monster theory was the Ahu Guano theory. It's not. I think that's going to be something when I figure out what it means.
Okay.
So, but let me ask you first. What was your favorite Ahu Guano theory from season 1?
I'm going to have to go with my hollow moon theory.
There you go.
As it was the Ahu Guano theory for the final episode of my 4-part Alien Probes episode. That was such a big thing that it actually needed its own episode that took me a long time to write. There was a big gap between those episodes because I didn't realize what I was getting myself into by saying that needed to be an episode. I know Maz thought I was going to say the Colorado Vortex Batman thing.
Yes. Yeah. You were being baited.
Yeah. I knew you wanted me to say that, but I never want to give you what I
Which, by the way, that started out as me making a joke during the Stanley Hotel episode and you bringing it home to actually prove that there might be something to the joke I made.
The real thing is that, I mean, this is a technicality because anything can really be an Ahu Guano theory, but it wasn't actually technically an Ahu Guano theory like in the segment. It was just something I came up with along the way too.
Right.
So I'm not sure if it would be pure to give it the award for best anyway. But that Stanley Hotel stuff is episodes 12 and 13. If anyone hasn't heard it yet, I honestly think it's some of our best work even to this date.
But briefly, I made a joke about Stanley Hotel has some caves under it. Big mansion guy with this fast car that it's kind of the first fast mobile that shows up, pulls into the cave. I kind of made the connection. Maybe he's Batman.
Yeah.
And then you looked up and found what?
Oh, I found that one of the two creators of the very original Batman character, grew up in Denver, which is in the shadows of Estes Park, where F.O. Stanley had his big old mansion up in the hills outside the city with the crazy cave system underneath it, and driving his rocket car back and forth into town. The guy was like, I think he was somewhere around 20 years old. Like he was well old enough to know about F.O. Stanley by the time F.O. Stanley died. Like he saw this guy in real life, living that life. And he ends up creating Batman. He sees this, for his day, what we would call a billionaire.
Yeah. There's caves under
today.
Hey, you know that mansion up there has caves under it, and he's got this fast car that's black that just speeds through town like crazy.
And you know what I bet there were a lot of in those caves?
Crystals.
Bats.
And bats. We talked about the
well,
crystals.
we know there were crystals, but I'm betting there were a lot of bats.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
again,
no, still my award. So that is a very good one. But my award goes to the Hollow Moon. That blew my mind. And the side trail for that Hollow Moon episode, some of my best work, I got to say. Some of my best work.
There you go. Mine is my Ancient Tune Theory. And we're going to do a compilation on it. So maybe I'll skip some of that. But we're going to actually get together some of those. And, it's
going to be one of our season break episodes. We're going to put together all of the segments that make up Maz's overall ancient, what is it, the cartoon monster theory? What do you call it, Maz?
Like Ancient Tune Theory.
Ancient Tune Theory. There you go.
So
it's quite the thing. It's quite
well, it kind of gets a sculling.
I haven't heard them all at once. Like, I'm looking forward to putting that together and listening to it so I can hear it all back to back. Yeah. Because I think it's going to just like flow really well. It's going to be a great presentation, I think.
It's going to make so much sense, but why? The skull. This from the Scully Muggle perspective. It's a case of pareidolia again, seeing patterns where they are not, because that's what Michio Kaku tells us. Yeah, that's what the human mind does. But as we reach downward and find all these deeper, seemingly important patterns, we also must not forget how those global themes do seem to be bubbling up through the collective unconscious. That ties in depth psychology, ties in consciousness theory, ties in some of the psychology stuff that we're talking about, and really everything else.
I think the Bugs Bunny one is my favorite, actually.
Well, I think the Maurice Sendak one for me, and it was the first one. And again,
it was the first.
We had audio problems. We were very new on this, but
I think your Bugs Bunny one was the most unique and just really deeply philosophical in a way that the other ones maybe aren't. Well, it's my personal choice.
I appreciate that. And what I was trying to do is have a monster trickster complex kind of in the works as well, because I think that there's a real correlation that nobody seems to understand between the monster and the trickster. I don't think anybody's explained it, and I can't explain it yet. That's why I haven't done this episode. At the end of that episode was going to be that bit. I wrote that bit. The Bugs Bunny part, I totally understand. Yep. But I decided we did something. You asked me to do something for Leap Year a couple of weeks before.
Oh, that was the rabbit episode.
Yeah, so I just said, well, Leapus, let's just do rabbit lore. And
yeah, Leapus for Leap Day, our February 29th episode.
Yeah. But I did want to kind of, bring it back home a little bit. I'm sorry we didn't mention the tequila.
Actually, that whole episode is some of your best work, honestly. That Leap Day special is one of my favorites from season one.
It's a very humorous one. When we
so
listen to the back to that.
But it's so informative, too, and like, you do great work with that one. It was just such a great variety show kind of presentation.
And you have to understand, you told me in February, like February 10th or 7th or 8th, put this together. I do take a lot of time to throw these things together. And for me, that was a short turnaround.
Well, I told you it didn't have to be a whole episode. I was like, can you do a quick thing?
I was like, I got this.
I was like, do it side trail style. Give it 20, 30 minutes, just something we can put out on Leap Day. Yeah. And then I show up and you're like, you ready, dude? This is going to be like an hour and a half. I'm like, sweet.
No, I said, hold my tequila rabbit.
Yeah, hold my tequila rabbit. He was talking to Bugs. It all goes wackier from there.
But I would end the Scully Muggle thing on this because we do want to bring them along with us,
The Sir Richard Scully Muggle Skeptics Review.
You're full of crap, and that's the nicest thing that I can say.
And Carl Sagan's my favorite many of you may know already.
He's a house favorite around here, yeah.
Yep. And here's Sagan quoting Sherlock Holmes. It is a capital mistake. Oh, I got to do him. This is a perfect one to do in my Sagan voice.
Do your Sagan. Yeah. Moz Sagan.
It makes sense now, finally.
Yeah, we need the Moz Sagan for the wrap-up here.
It is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Insensibly, one begins to twist facts to suit theories instead of theories to suit facts. Yeah, and that's Sherlock Holmes. Actually, no, that's Arthur Conan Doyle. I don't know how to do that in Arthur Conan. Can we do it again in Arthur Conan Doyle?
What does he even sound like? How would I know if you're right?
That's right. But Carl Sagan was and is my favorite. I have to say that. He suggests we hold the candle of science to whatever endeavor we're doing, and that's why we invited Dr. Arnett. By the way, I mean we're trying to And I made that connection at the end of that episode. We're interviewing an astrophysicist. More importantly, I got a Scooby-Doo joke in there, and that I think is actually more important.
Always worth the effort.
But NASA great James Webb, is the guy that they named the James Webb Telescope for. And occultist historian James Webb, there's two guys that have the same name. And I said at the end of that, if we could get those two folks on the same page.
You know who they are? They're two quantumly entangled particles spinning in opposite directions.
Right. Just what my quantum theory. You gave an example of a quote we don't understand yet. And you're so way ahead.
And never the twain to meet, because if they do, they'll cancel each other out, like in my poem.
Wow. Oh, jeez. I was thinking James Webb of Life, but you.
I went way past it.
I
went way past it.
But we're looking for explanations, and we're bringing science with us, kicking and screaming if necessary.
If necessary, absolutely.
Because the screams fade to gurgly sobs eventually, and then there's kind of an unsettling silence over the mausoleum.
The mausoleum.
But I want to find out.
That's where we keep all of Moz's records, is in the mausoleum.
Yeah, My Police Records needs a big, big vault.
Court records, police records.
Yeah. Look, it was before computer, kids, so I got away with that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, God. Can you imagine if we had the internet in our day, Moz?
Nope.
Woo, I never would have made it through my 20s.
Nope. The world sucks. Sorry, kids.
Sorry. And seriously, sorry, kids.
Hey, but you can stream Hulu. Good luck with that. But I wanted to find out why monsters and such related entities are so important to the human condition and our psyches and our well-being, and why they are so friggin' all over the place.
Yeah, everywhere.
And I have no intention of leaving science on the shoreline for this one, though. I mean, neither of us do. You're the more of the science guy.
Mm-hmm.
But
try to be, I mean.
But through the speculative fiction, the whole guano, the ancient tune theory, hopefully, we can find some tidbits of information that, are relevant. And we'll try to keep those moving forward in these episodes. Right. Having said that, a note to Richard Dawkins and the rest of the Scully Muggle menace. This is a prepared quote by me. So I want to do it in Sagan, but that would make no sense because Sagan's not on our side on this. We find therianthropic cave paintings from shamans 20 to 30, maybe even 40,000 years ago.
Wow.
And probably older ones as yet undiscovered. And compare that to today, with countless tribes and regions still dealing with the same global themes, were creatures, shamanic energies, and tiny creature teachers. At the very least, the psychological impact is considerable, but these folks strongly believe they are dealing with real entities from these less visible parts of the world, with real knowledge and real consequences for going against these creatures. But they train their best and their brightest to be shamans.
Yeah.
It's where everyone says the knowledge comes from in the first place.
So
there's this double-edged sword I keep coming across when you deal with these things, that there's knowledge to be gained and there's monsters to be slain.
And lives to be lost.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
And I also think of sorghum beer. I believe that when I made a Wolfman Puck ingredient about sorghum beer, which was from West Benin, Africa, I don't know this for a fact, but I'll bet the Siwasa beings told them how to make that.
Oh.
So I used a Wolfman Puck ingredient to serve a beastie, and I don't know that for a fact. It was alluded somewhere, but I'm There's nothing specific on it. It's a Sharon Mertz question.
Interesting. But you are jumping the gun a little bit with the Wolfman Pucks. We got to have a funeral first, which brings us to our Scully Mulder believability scale.
They feel your methods. Your theories are
spooky. Do you think I'm spooky?
Wait, why am I Scully?
So that's the last time we may ever play that bumper. We've decided that our judgment is not necessary and that some of these things are way too multi-category and it's way too complex to come up with a basic number to say if you believe it or not. It's just not even a viable aspect for most of our episodes at this point.
Well, repetitiveness came into mind because it was all the same were creature in different places. And then there was also, we got into last episode, I didn't want to discount what these people experienced if this really happened to them. I don't want to be that guy.
Exactly. I'm not the one to judge. I've told some stories on here. They're just as weird as that in their own way.
Yeah.
It's not the scale of the Mojave incident, but they're just as weird in their own way. And I haven't even told my weirdest ones yet. I'm not sure I'm even going to tell the really weirdest ones because they're too weird.
If I could, and this is just last week briefly, it was because if you added all your stories together in the same night, this seems to be what happened. And to me, it's well, then we went here and fought the Predator, and then we went here and fought the aliens, and then we went here and fought...
Yeah. It's an Alex Bone story after he drinks a 12-pack.
Yeah, even 8.
That's why you got to keep him reasonably sober before... until the end of the interview.
Exactly.
I have strategies for people that keep coming back on this podcast. No offense, Bone, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
No, I was talking to Bone. I know he's listening. He listens.
But Wolfman Puck's Cryptid Culinary Corner, are we doing that tonight?
Yes, I guess that's all we need for the funeral. We'll be replacing the believability scale with something new. We haven't fully decided. I don't want to say yet. We might know, but we're not sure. But we'll have same number of segments at the end of the episodes. It'll just be that one's going to get replaced with something.
There you go.
And yeah, I guess if there's nothing else to do beforehand, do we have a Wolfman Puck scripted culinary corner?
Your entree, sir. Smells good.
I don't know how you eat an entire season, so I'm a little lost for this one. But we hope.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna gather all the different monsters that we talked about this year. I'm gonna throw them a party, man. Big outdoor bonfire kind of party. Then I'm gonna make a stew out of moths and feed them to all the monsters.
Okay. For one, you've already fed me to monsters before. You don't win this, right? Even though we didn't prepare it, you don't win. There's only losing here.
I honestly, before the season was really over, I wanted to feed you to the monsters just one more time, Moz. It was a romantic notion in my mind.
Wow.
I thought it was romantic. I'm sorry.
No. You start off.
It's what I bring.
It's Ouroboros. In the beginning, you start off the bugs to my Daffy. You do something really amazing, and then I'm the buffet.
Is that your Wolfman Pucks, the Ouroboros, the snake eating itself?
Yes, that is my Ouroboros. It's just a dragon eating itself. Yes. And that's it.
That's lovely. That's romantic, too.
Yeah.
It was a very romantic Wolfman Pucks.
Well, it brings us back to pre-undifferentiated, pre-origin myth, pre-everything we're talking about, back to undifferentiated gooness. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Gooness. It's all about the good gooness.
Yeah, we talked about that. Asma just said something about that. Oh, my goodness. Go ahead. I won't go into that. I was reading Stephen Asma recently. I apologize.
Oh, my goodness.
Go ahead. It's all you.
I don't know. Are we done? Are we really done with season 1, Moz? Can that be a thing?
It seems like we're done.
Wow.
All right. It was a. Have we made any progress? I'll ask this. Any progress from hate to love?
I think so. We have some Patreon members that I don't know who they are in person.
Wow. That's a
step,
thank
right?
You.
That's a step. And we've put all this work in to put this out there for anyone who wants this kind of information in their brain.
Yeah. Oh, can I
it's all about love. It's going to be a cyclical thing. We just have to keep going until enough people know we're here.
So 2 things about who to help before we go. One is, please, if you can, if you want to become a Patreon member, we'd love to keep this thing going. We're not, trying to take over the world. We just want to keep this puppy rolling along.
We want to buy some books.
Yes.
We both have a few books on our list that are like $100+ for a book.
Correct.
If we could get into that category of research, it's just going to be even way.
Yeah, we can
deeper.
bring you even more.
And it's only $1 a month right now. That's all you can. That's all we're asking.
Yeah.
It's patreon.com/monsterlore-tour.
And more importantly, forget us. Internet Archive is about to take a shit.
Yeah, that's terrible.
They're in the midst of a lawsuit. I totally get it from both sides. They just scanned a bunch of crap.
Yeah, the copyright thing's real. As much as you might disagree with it, it's a real thing.
But what they've done is they've created this little mini available Library of Alexandria, this bubble within our world where you can go in. I'm researching Bigfoot. I can't imagine what other people might be losing by this. Oh, yeah.
I have a lot of storage
I can
space.
cut and paste. Like, I will look up.
Oh, no kidding.
I would guess, like, between our libraries and the library in our various towns is 30% of the work. We buy books. For me, that's about 30% of the work. Internet Archive by itself is the other third of this because I research that. I don't use Wiki that often. I glance over that few page thing and I'm on to other bigger and better adventures. And I try to do that last as a double check to see if I missed anything. But they're in the appeal process now. I think they're going to lose. And they're just going to pull that down, and it's going to be this little. I guess the way I feel about this, we're dumb enough. Like, let us have something to read. I understand from the author standpoint, we have to come up with a number. When is it okay to be into the the collective conscious?
20 years.
Well, I don't know what that answer is because some people do. Some people
20 years.
Okay,
if I put out a book and it was successful enough that people knew about it, and I got 20 years of royalties and money and rights and everything out of it, that's enough.
I don't know what the answer is.
I honestly think I think it's 20 years.
But
maybe 25.
We have to
right now it's 100. 100 years.
That's not even the whole story. Like Oxford and Cambridge and Yale, and they buy all these. They're not giving you the studies. They're keeping all this stuff. They're not giving. You can't get collective works of Carl Jung. I have to buy this stuff.
That's what I mean. After 20 years, all that stuff should be available. All of it. Everything.
Yeah, but that's still not happening. I don't think that's happening after what you said, because in some ways I think they're holding institutions are hanging on to some of this.
Well, yeah, they it's like
for whatever reason
they kill the story, so to speak. They buy up the rights, and then they stop printing it, and they buy up all the copies they can find, and they literally try to take it out of circulation so that they're the only ones that can have it.
Well, I don't think they're going around grandma's library and taking stuff, but at the same time, yes, you can.
Well, not personal libraries, but bookstores.
Yeah.
They'll go buy that shit up.
Yes,
it's almost like a book burning in a way, but they're saving it for them instead of destroying it. They're saving it for themselves.
Right. So a hard and fast year needs to be decided, and then it needs to be available so that we get smarter. The Flynn effect ended about I would say, what was it, 15 years ago? I'm going off the top of my head, but every generation gets smarter. And about 15 years ago, that stopped.
It curved back down a little bit.
Losing this little mini, and they don't need a lot of credit. I'm not saying in their workhorses, and it's terrific they're getting us. They didn't write this stuff. They're breaking laws of publishers.
I have a theory in one word as to why we're getting stupider. Microplastic.
Well, every generation is exposed to more toxins.
We're not going to do it now. Next season, I might get into something like that later on in the season, but there's episodes to come.
There you go. But save the Internet Archive and save the Monster Lore Tour.
Yeah, just share it with your friends,
I'm not going to, but share
even
it with
if it's
your
not
friends.
money. The more people listening, the more the information gets out.
Exactly, and
the more minds expand, and the more perspective we have, and the more our perceptions grow.
At the end of the day, we want an excuse to keep this going. So just give us that excuse.
My excuse is that I just get to look in Maz's eyes longingly for hours at a time.
Danny DeVito next season. Or Alex Bone. If Danny DeVito falls through,
I'm going to have dreams about being attacked by Danny DeVito tonight.
Yeah.
And, if anyone resembles a puckwudgie in real life.
See?
Sorry, Danny. On that note, let's get the hell out of here. Thanks, everybody, for supporting the podcast up through season 1. We got some interviews, some compilations, things like that for the next month. We will be back in September with Owl Week to launch season 2. We really do appreciate y'all, Patreon members particularly, but anyone listening, anyone liking, anyone sharing, anyone subscribing. We really do appreciate you taking time to listen to, what we're hoping is an informative, entertaining podcast.
I appreciate y'all, but not necessarily y'all. Because I don't even know what that means. Because y'all's implied. It's y'all. It's in there. It's infinite. It's like a tesseract.
I'm inflecting, Maz.
It's like a tesseract. It's got everything in it already. You don't need
thank you.
You don't
Maz.
need 2 tesseract. Thank you, Maz.
Till next time, have a good one, listener. Monster Lore Tour Podcast. Oh.